So Diane Abbott has said that video games and pornography could partly be responsible for the recent surge in knife crime and violent crime amongst young people. Now, with pornography, I can understand the need to do something about the age at which people can access it, because it's been reported that boys as young as 8 are able to access pornography via the internet, via their mobile phones, etc. But where I draw the issue here is with video games, because somebody needs to tell me what video games they were playing in the times of the Roman legions when they were conquering most of the planet. What video games they were playing in concentration camps where Nazis were gassing people en masse. What video games they were playing in the old Western saloons when they would go outside after a fight and shoot each other. What video games were they playing from the dawn of time when cavemen would bash each other's heads in with rocks. Video games are not to blame for violence. In order to commit an act of violence, you need to have something already prevalent in your brain, already in your head. I've been playing video games since I was about 4 years old. I've been playing Grand Theft Auto, arguably the most notorious, infamous, violent video game, for arguably as long as I can remember. I've never violently stabbed anyone. I've never felt the need or the urge to violently stab anyone or shoot up a school or run over a hooker and take my money or do anything that is depicted in that game. I have physically hit a couple of people, but believe me, they had that coming, and believe me, my playing video games had no part in that. So video games haven't desensitized me to gratuitous or over-the-top violence. If I see an act of extreme violence, no doubt I would be physically sick, because I'm able to draw the distinction between fantasy and reality, between video game and real life. I know that stabbing someone multiple times or shooting someone in the head or running someone over in my car would have consequences, and I know that it's morally wrong to do so, because I was raised with a sense of right and wrong. I was raised to know right from wrong and know what's the proper thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. So it seems for decades people have been blaming video games for acts of violence rather than pointing at the real issue, and I'm really disappointed that this is coming from a senior member of the Labour opposition. Labour should be focusing on the real problem here, which is social problems, social divisions along race and class, social divisions in terms of cuts to social services, to youth centres, to youth clubs, etc. The cuts to police numbers. Of course, if you have more police on the streets, people aren't going to be as likely to commit knife crime and commit violent acts of crime. If you have the right number of people talking to youths, the right number of people communicating with youths, telling them, showing them another way, showing them a way out of a life of poverty, a way out of a life of crime, because poverty and crime are inextricably linked, completely linked. Because think about it, all the criminals across the planet, even the organised mafioso types throughout history, Al Capone, the Krays, the Richardsons, all those types of people, right? They all started in absolute poverty. Just watch The Godfather, for fuck's sake. Don Corleone comes over on a migrant ship from Italy. He's got nothing, and he starts a life of crime, and that's how he ends up building himself up. These kids want something, but there's no jobs, there's no opportunities, there's no future, arguably, for them. So they turn to a life of crime because they've got nothing to lose. So we need to start, Labour and prominent members within Labour need to start addressing these issues. Start calling out the government, saying, why are you cutting youth services? Why are you cutting youth clubs and social services and police and outreach programs? This is why knife crime is rising, or this is a part of the responsibility as to why knife crime is on the rise. This is why it's happening. All your cuts to libraries, the food banks, to everything left, right and centre that you can think of that isn't your own pocket. And yes, many people like John McDonnell, like Corbyn, like other prominent members of Labour have highlighted these issues, have said this is why, or this is part of the reason why knife crime is on the rise, because people feel disassociated. People feel like there's no hope, there's no future for them. So what they'll do is they'll join a gang, they'll join some sort of organisation. They might even go solo, deal drugs, whatever it is, whatever crime it is that they feel compelled to do. And by association, they will join a gang, because if you're committing a crime, if crime is a lifestyle for you, you're going to need friends. You're going to need people who will back you up, people who will protect you, if you will. So you join a gang. And of course, that gang has enemies. That gang has a rival gang. And then they will start stabbing each other, killing each other on the streets, and etc., etc., etc. If you listen to any ex-gang member, any person who has committed a knife crime, any person who has sold drugs or been in a gang culture, they will tell you exactly why they felt compelled to commit crime and join a gang. They will tell you. Anyone from here to America, they will tell you. This is why we joined a gang, because we felt like we had no hope. The police don't care about us, the government don't care about us, the politicians don't care about us. This is why it happens. They will tell you that. Point in case. So listen to them, because these are the people that know it. These are the people that know what they're talking about. Listen to them. Listen to people. You haven't even got to listen to the criminals themselves. Listen to the people around them. Their mothers, their brothers, their sisters, whatever. Listen to those people, because they know as well exactly why these people do what they do. So they need to stop blaming inanimate objects or inanimate forms of art or forms of entertainment that cannot be held accountable. How are you going to hold a video game accountable? Okay, sure, you could sue Rockstar, like, as has happened many a time, but ultimately that case will get thrown out of court, because Rockstar is not responsible for what your child does or what a child does to someone else. It's happened. Rockstar has been sued dozens of times by people claiming that their kids shot someone or murdered someone based on what they saw in their video game, and the case has always been thrown out. There has never ever been, as far as I know, a lawsuit filed against Rockstar that went against their favour. It's always been thrown out, because video games and music and artists, and even music artists, Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest, etc., have been sued because people have claimed that backwards messages in their songs told their kid to kill themselves. If you hear a backwards, if you hear a backwards message in a song telling you to kill yourself, does that mean you've got to go out and do it just because you heard it in a song? It's ridiculous. In order to do these things, yes, and I'm not arguing that these things may be an early source of outlet for many people. If people feel the urge to commit violent acts, they may very well listen to violent music or play violent video games as an early form of outlet, which could lead to a violent physical act in the real world, because it's an outlet for a fantasy. Many psychologists will tell you this. It's an outlet for a fantasy before they can drum up the courage or drum up the ability to actually do it in real life. But that doesn't mean that the video game is responsible. It does not mean that the artist who writes the music or performs the music is responsible. In order to commit a violent act, an excessively violent act, you have to have something wrong with you already in your head. You have to be desensitized somehow, whether it's through an abusive childhood, whether it's through seeing violence around you in the real world all your life, whether it's through mental illness, whatever it is. We need to address these issues, and we need to address what policy we can enact to actually change it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.